If you want the type of class that kids love to come to and hate to leave, listen to my tips to better student engagement. Listen, the first thing that I will say is that there is always order in my classroom, or I shouldn't say always, but the vast majority of the time. Now, sometimes that is very, very unique type of order, but it's some type of order. So yes, kids get up and they move and things get crazy sometimes, but there's still an order to it. So before I release them to do any activity, I tell them exactly what I expect. As soon as it starts going off track from what I expect and what I have demonstrated, I shut everything down and address it. Order is the number one tip if you want to increase student engagement. Students become disengaged when they don't know what's going on. When you allow your class to be disruptive and loud and no one can focus, then students say, what's the point? I can't even focus anyways. I might as well start talking to my best friend or texting or whatever they are going to do when they have figured out that they can't learn. So get order in your classroom and maintain it, and you will notice that the vast majority of students want to learn and they will be engaged. Number 2, I allow them to know that I care, but I don't overdo it. Especially if you teach middle school, students don't really want you to be their best friend. They think it's kind of weird, kind of right. And so what I do is I let them know that I care in small ways, but I don't overdo it. I've seen teachers try to overdo it and say that this is my best friend. And students became very resistant to that because they were like, you're 60. And so it just doesn't feel natural. They don't really want you to be their best friend. They already have best friends. But when you hear them say something that happened in their life, you can comment on it. You can ask them about it later and say, hey, how did that work out? And so my students knew that I cared, but I also had this side of me to where they were like, that's Mr. Glosson. He really doesn't care. And at the same time, they knew that I did. I hope that makes sense. Number 3, I also make everything about them. And when I say everything, I mean everything, because they are kids and they're naturally self-centered. So if I was teaching a lesson, I made the lesson about them in some way. So I had a standard when I taught 5th grade, and I had to teach Duke Ellington, Margaret Mitchell, and Jesse Owens. You probably have a very vague idea of who some of those people are yourself because they lived a very long time ago. So how am I going to make Duke Ellington and Margaret Mitchell applicable to a 5th grader's life in 2020 something? The way that I did it was I tied Duke Ellington into current musicians. And so I said, who's your favorite musician? And I'll play a clip of that musician on YouTube. So if it was Ariana Grande or whoever, and I would say, well, you see how excited you guys get with Ariana Grande? Here's what people used to listen to back in the day. And all the kids are like, oh my goodness, it's so boring or whatever. But I made a connection too that they were just as popular in their day as in your day right now, as people are right now. So this is just one idea, but make your lesson applicable to their lives, or they're going to leave your room saying, who cares? So what? Who cares? And you don't want them to think that way, or they're not going to retain what you're trying to teach them. So again, the 3 tips to a more engaged classroom is, number 1, have order. Number 2, allow students to know that you care about them without overdoing it. And number 3, make everything about them. Thanks for watching this Epiphanies video. We really appreciate it and hope you learned something, because teachers need teaching.